Alrighty, interest group strategies. This is Mr. Shulman. Hello, hello. So, in this political cartoon, great introduction to lobbyists and just how negative the media likes to portray them. But you see them trying to, get in the way, affect financial regulatory reform being proposed in Congress. And I love the just sheer terror in the eyes of these members of Congress. They're so scared of these bees or these lobbyists. Um, Once again, the media just loves to say how bad these things are. All right, so let's take a look at some of the strategies interest groups like to do. Um, this is a screenshot here of a advertisement, and one of the ways interest groups promote their views is by using TV, social media, and by having commercials. Let's take a look at this one.
They say your home is your castle, and sometimes you need help defending your castle. The National Association of Realtors supports maintaining homeowner tax incentives because they make home ownership more affordable for more families. Learn more at houselogic.com.
All right, I hope you caught the end of that where they're talking about promoting, more incentives for people to buy homes. Very creative way. Now, if you look at that ad, who are they talking to? Are they talking to politicians or are they talking to regular old Americans? Yeah, they're trying to, influence regular Americans to be like, hey, I want to continue to receive, you know, tax benefits from owning a home. I'm going to have to contact my member of Congress in order to keep that going. That's the goal of the National Association of Realtors in that ad. Another way of another strategy, it doesn't, happen all the time, but it can get a lot of media attention, is boycotting. When Arizona passed their controversial immigration laws a few years back, people literally stopped visiting Arizona. I'm not sure what the actual numbers were, but it can by refusing to go to a state or buy something at a store, it can have a really big effect. Historically, go to the Montgomery bus boycott of the 1950s, started by Rosa Parks and her refusal to, to sit in the back. Or I'm sorry, in the back of the bus. That was a rather effective boycott. Another way, and I think one of the most powerful ways currently, is endorsing candidates. Interest groups, when they give an endorsement for a candidate, that can really say a lot. If you take a look down here, this is from the NRA website, and between Ken Cuccinelli and Terry McAuliffe, these two gentlemen are running for governor of Virginia. Take a look who's got the NRA endorsement. Yep, Ken Cuccinelli. He gets an A from the NRA. McAuliffe gets an F from the NRA. If gun rights was your big issue and you saw something like this could motivate you to vote for Cuccinelli, maybe donate money to him in order to help him win. If the NRA likes this guy, maybe you should like him too. And then the other way interest groups can affect policy is by creating ratings, just like these grades over here. Interest groups can rate how politicians vote on bills, what types of policies they propose. They can be, very partisan, but yet they can be very informational, because if abortion or the environment or gun rights is important to you, those ratings from different organizations can really, give people sort of like traffic signals. Should I go for this person or should I go for the other person? Here you have a scorecard from the ACLU from a few years back, and you can see how Christopher Dodd had a 100% score. Joe Lieberman had a 40% score from the ACLU. Minority Leader Mitch McConnell in the Senate had a 0% score from the ACLU. So if civil liberties is your big issue and you're seeing some of these candidates with really high scores or really low scores, once again, that could affect who you potentially donate money for, who you campaign for, and who you eventually vote for. All right, something that doesn't get too much attention and something we'll talk more about is the idea of litigation. Groups, if lawmaking is being really, really slow, oftentimes groups will take an issue to court, hoping that the courts will make a decision in their favor. The best example of this is the civil rights movement of the 1950s and 60s. The NAACP was really good at using litigation, using the courts to fight the end of segregation. Obviously, the Brown versus Board of Education court case. I mean, Congress was not going to make civil rights changes in the 1950s, but through the use of the federal court system, the Supreme Court did state that segregation was unconstitutional, and as you know, it opened the way for a lot of civil rights changes to take place in the 20th century. Another big idea that's connected to litigation are these, they're called amicus curiae briefs. And this will be something we study more when we get to the judicial branch. But an amicus brief, or an amicus brief are literally they're persuasive essays presented to the Supreme Court from groups not represented in the case. So anybody can put them up. Let's say you had a case about gay rights. If you were really passionate about limiting gay rights or expanding gay rights, you could send one of your amicus briefs to the Supreme Court. The justices are supposed to use these. They don't have to read them, but the amicus briefs could play a role in determining how a justice votes on the court, on the issue. Once again, these two topics are things you'll see on the AP exam. And then we get to my favorite topic, lobbying, because it's hard for politicians to decide stuff on their own. And this guy right here, oh yeah, that's infamous lobbyist, super lobbyist, Jack Abramoff, a man we will talk more about in class. The idea of lobbying is really simple. It's influencing, it's getting lawmakers, getting policymakers to do stuff you want, whether it's providing specialized information, donating money to their re-election campaigns, all sorts of ways. You have two types of lobbying. You have direct lobbying, when interest groups pay lobbyists to actually contact and persuade policymakers. And then you also have something called grassroots lobbying, where the interest groups, the members and other citizens, they write letters, they put out emails to influence lawmakers. And the idea here is that if the interest group can get millions of people involved and contacting their lawmakers, that could have a really big effect on the future of policies. This is, I guess, a visual that I like because it kind of shows, what lobbyists do. So let's say you have an interest group. Take the U.S. Chamber of Commerce. They represent businesses, business owners. They might hire a lobbyist. There's Jack Abramoff again. Sorry, Jack Abramoff. Now, in order to hire this man, you have to pay them. And so the way I think about a lobbyist is I think about them as almost like super agents, where if you take an athlete doesn't really know about negotiating contracts, so they hire an agent, and the agent specializes in that so that the agent can get a really good deal for their client, the athlete. Well, the interest groups know their area of expertise, commerce, business. So they pay money to hire a lobbyist, someone who knows the system in Washington, and the lobbyist works to influence the member of Congress, as well as donate money to the Congress member's re-election campaign. Maybe they donate money to the congressman's leadership PAC. And so you have this totally legal system in place where interest groups hire lobbyists, and the lobbyists try to influence members of Congress on behalf of the interest groups. Now, it may get kind of tricky, and it can, because, some people think about this as bribery, but there are limits to this process, and we'll get into that a little bit later. The typical activities of lobbyists too, they tend to have private meetings with public officials, often not really seen by the public, testifying at congressional committees, providing information to the actual committees, the people in Congress that really do a big part of the lawmaking process. They can actually assist legislators in their offices and other bureaucracies in writing laws and regulations. Some people think this is a little bit controversial. We'll talk about an organization called ALEC that has been really into doing this, and what are the pros and cons of that. And then inviting legislators to social occasions. And this, once again, can get a little bit dicey in terms of the legal, what's legal and what's not. And we'll get into that. We'll talk about that more in class. I know this is a little bit blurry here, but you can see it's some of the different things lobbyists tend to do in order to get legislation to benefit their clients. Testifying at hearings, talking with the media, sending letters to update them on group activities. These are all different ways lobbyists try to influence policymakers. Here you have a great political cartoon showing you, according to this cartoonist, how a bill becomes a law. And here you have your special interest group. Here's your bill, Congressman, and the word bill, he's giving him a little bit of money here, and then the member of Congress is giving them a law. Now, you look at this cartoon, and man, these guys look like they are just the most evil people in the entire world. To a degree, this is relatively legal, but you can probably understand why this is controversial. We'll talk more about this cartoon in class. Another thing interest groups do, and this is really the last big topic, is influencing elections. The concept of electioneering, where they encourage members, they encourage citizens to vote for the candidates that will help their interest group. Interest groups can play a role in writing and influencing the platforms that political parties put out every 4 years at their national conventions, and interest groups can donate money to parties and candidates through their political action committees, which we will spend more time talking about. Remember, the more you donate, the more access you could potentially receive from a member of Congress. Is that the way it should be? Well, I don't know, but in some cases it's really the way it is. So let's talk about PACs. What the heck are they? So a PAC is a committee organized for the purpose of raising money and then spending that money to either elect or defeat a candidate. Laws prevent unions and corporations from giving money directly to candidates, so PACs are this loophole. This money is voluntarily donated by their group members. So the members of the group organization donate to the PAC. The PAC is like the middleman, and the PAC can then donate money to candidates that will benefit their group. PACs can give up to $5,000 to a candidate per election, and PACs may receive up to $5,000 from any one individual PAC or party per calendar year. So PACs can donate to other PACs if they want to. Another big thing here is they have to register with the FEC, the Federal Election Commission. Now, we'll talk more about these in class and in our next chapter, but then you have these relatively new things called super PACs. And according to the Citizens United court case, unions and corporations, they still can't give money directly to candidates, but they can raise and spend unlimited amounts of money either trying to help or prevent a candidate as long as their actions are performed independently of the candidates without any coordination with candidates. And so it gets kind of dicey once again, how are they completely independent? Who's actually making sure this happens? Oftentimes super PACs do have a history with candidates. maybe they're former employees of candidates, maybe family members of candidates. So once again, this is one of those controversial issues that we talk about when we get into campaign finance and interest groups and the power of money. And we'll get into this a little bit more later in this course. This is just some good data showing you some of the contributions PACs played in the 2008 election cycle. And you'll notice business groups tend to contribute a lot more than any other interest entity. And you'll also notice that Democrats and Republicans, Republicans get a little bit more, but Democrats do receive a lot of contributions from PACs. Labor, very one-sided towards Democrats. Ideological, it depends on what, type of ideology they're promoting, but you'll see in 2008 a little bit more towards Democrats. These are just these were the top 20 PACs from the 2008 election cycle. National Association of Realtors, they are up there. The National Beer Wholesalers Association, we talked about them earlier. They donate and spend lots and lots of money to try to get candidates that will benefit their. And so that's going to be it for now. I know that's a lot of information, but in the next video we'll go into some of the limits that interest groups face from the federal government. Until then, keep studying. Adios.